So hi, I'm going to get started now. My name's Sarah Ivanhoe, and I'm the yoga director here at USC, but I've been teaching the sleep class through the Mindful USC program. I can't believe it, but it's been 2 years now. But I've been having sleep problems for probably 45 years, since I was a very little kid. Having sleep trouble, a lot of kids have trouble falling asleep. They kick and scream with their parents, but actual sleep disorders in children are pretty rare. My first memories was I would sort of pretend to fall asleep because I knew if I didn't pretend to fall asleep, I'd get in trouble. And I actually would stay awake all night. And at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I would sort of walk around my house all night while the family was sleeping. And I would stay awake all night, sometimes 2 nights in a row, sometimes 3 nights in a row. My record, the longest I've gone without sleeping, my longest insomnia bout was 4 nights in a row. And all of this while I was growing up and not really understanding what was going on. Finally, as my parents came to see that I was a lot of emotional highs and lows, I would be very cranky and irritable when I hadn't slept, and then finally I would sleep. I'd be in a great mood. My parents, I grew up in Northern California, and my parents were already sort of tuned into alternative modalities. I was given some what they told me were called biofeedback tapes to listen to. I can picture like an old cassette tape, which I now learned. Sorry, it's my dog is barking away there. I learned to find out is actually a practice of yoga nidra. So at a very young age, I was doing these guided relaxation practices, and I started to have these kind of exalted experiences. I wasn't falling asleep like I was supposed to, but I was kind of getting into these, deeply meditative states, which sort of spurred an inquiry in yoga and meditation for me at a very young age. Got into yoga when I was 14 and basically dedicated my life to yoga and meditation, started teaching in 1995. But as I've taught yoga and meditation, my own personal filter through which I would see everything was always, what of these practices is going to help me sleep? Yoga's gone through all these phases of being fitness oriented, or meditation is mindfulness. Everything had its way. But personally, I was still having trouble sleeping my whole life. So every practice I endeavored upon, I would be sort of using myself as a guinea pig, saying like, hey, does this help me sleep, or does this wake me up? Does it wind me down? Does it this? Does it that? And so I started teaching sleep workshops about 20 years ago, mostly just because I figured if anybody else was out there struggling, these were a few things I had learned and I wanted to share them. And then did my master's degree at Loyola Marymount University in yoga philosophy and started working with USC pretty soon after. So that's what kind of brings me here to you guys tonight. What I hope to be doing in the weeks to come is we're going to be spending every night doing a little, we would do the sort of like the first part of class will always be a little bit of an education component. I really am a huge believer that knowledge is power, and that if you know more about sleep, it doesn't immediately help you sleep, but sometimes it can translate that way. So we'll always be doing a little bit of that. I'll try not to sound like a high school science class, but I'll go over some stuff that I think is worth hearing. And then we'll always do some sort of sharing. And you can always opt out of this if you want to, but I have really found that if you have challenges with sleep, it's incredibly isolating, because when you're having the trouble with sleep, you can't call up your friend or your partner or whatever and get help because they're sleeping, right? It's like the moment you're having your problem, there's nowhere to turn. And there's like a support group for almost everything out there, except for sleep stuff. And if you're here, you've probably felt the impact of your sleep on how you show up at work, how you might be more irritable with family members, romantic relationship, friends. When you show up with like not a full night's sleep, you just don't, you know what I mean? You often end up doing things that you apologize for later. And people who don't have sleep problems don't understand, like, no, it was just my sleep. Like, they just don't get it. So we'll be doing a little bit of sharing with each other of some of what of that is, and just to sort of get clarity on it. So, but the little bit of sharing I'm going to do tonight, I'm not going to make you guys jump up and start talking. I just kind of told you about myself, my kind of journey of sleep and what brought me here. We're going to do, Raynuka I have is hosting us tonight, and she is the technology expert. I'm terrible at technology. So she's going to send out a little poll so I can get a sense of who you guys are. And this is an anonymous poll. So just get a little bit of a sense of what the challenges are in the room. So it's just 3 questions. Thank you for putting that up, Raynuka. So if you could just go ahead and answer that, and then we'll talk about it. I love watching these answers come in. Okay. Yes, it's just 3 questions. Just go ahead and do your best. Okay, perfect. Let's share these results. Okay, so you guys are all seeing the polling results? I can see, can you guys give me like a little nod? You can see the screen? Okay, great. A year in quarantine and we still have not like figured out the perfect Zoom situation. So first easy question, do you have trouble falling asleep? Looks like 67% of you have trouble falling asleep. Do you have trouble staying asleep? This is actually, I found over my years of teaching this, this is actually usually the one that is the highest. And it is again tonight. 71% of you have trouble staying asleep. Do you grind your teeth at night? And it looks like almost half of you do, which is, it is just really a crazy thing that there's so many of us that are struggling with this. So I'm going to stop sharing the poll. And I'm going to make this go away. Okay, great. And then just for a moment or two, just based on that trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, grinding your teeth, and we're going to be digging into a lot of stuff with sleep. But does anyone want to jump in and have something like you're dying to say? You can give like an old-fashioned hand raise if you've got, Kathy.
So I have one thing is that I don't really have trouble falling asleep, but I don't know that I get really good sleep while I'm sleeping. So that's my thing.
I love that you said that so much, because usually that question is on the poll, but I usually have like 10 questions and I was like, cut it down to 3. So my usually on the poll is, do you sleep a full night but not feel rested? And it sounds like that's, so we're going to be addressing that as well. So great. Okay, anyone else wanna, and thank you for flagging that. Frank.
I wait till I'm good and tired. And I've never had a problem with sleep until about maybe 6 weeks ago. So I attribute it to pandemic and world events related stress. But I'm also a caregiver. So that's something that's never caught up with me before this. And it's hard to parse out, okay, well, it's 60% due to this or whatever. But I can go to sleep once I retire because I wait till I'm very sleepy. But I wake up, and then when I wake up, my mind is overly active and it's very difficult to go to sleep. So I've tried the counting breaths exercise that somebody gave in one of these meetings, and a few different things. And it sometimes I can go back to sleep, and sometimes I just can't. Today, after about 5.5 hours of sleep, I woke up and I couldn't fall back, and I just got up.
Do you, when the moment of waking, do you think you know what it is that wakes you? Is it the anxiety that wakes you, or do you wake up because you have to use the restroom? Do you wake up hot?
It could be any of those things. I don't think it's so much anxiety. I just wake up, and then once I'm awake, my mind is overly active, and it becomes this sort of like self-fulfilling prophecy of I'm going to have trouble going back to sleep.
Yeah, it spins. Yep. I'm seeing some nods. You're not alone. You're not alone with that one. Okay. Maddie is raising a hand.
Yeah, so kind of building on what Kathy said, I have extremely active dreams. And so in a lot of my dreams, I have recurring dreams that are very anxious. And so I think that is something that I struggle with, where I have all types of sleep. Like sometimes it's hard or sleep issues. Sometimes it's really hard for me to fall asleep. Then other times it's not. And then I wake up in the middle of the night, and kind of what Frank is talking about, where my mind is very active and I can't go back to sleep. And then other times I sleep the full night, but I have just such intense dreams that are very full of anxiety, like they're recurring anxiety dreams. And so it's kind of hard for me to figure out how to not have those things.
Yeah, no kidding. It's easier to work on your sleep challenge if there's just kind of like one. Where'd you go? Oh, there you go. Sorry, you moved squares. If you have one challenge, you're like, oh, I have trouble staying asleep. That sounds like you've got multiple challenges. So we're going to talk about this, and I'll kind of dive into this. I'll just kind of throw this out there now, and then I've got a little bit of a PowerPoint I'm going to take you guys through. But as we just heard from 3 people, and there were, there are similarities, but they're completely different issues with sleep. So we've come together. It seems like such a niche, narrow class. Like, oh, I'm going to be in the class with people with sleep. They're just like me. But it's actually so many different things that can be issue with sleep. And because there are so many things that can be, quotes, wrong with it, there is no one thing that's going to fix all of these different problems, because the problems are so different, right? Sarah's nodding her head. This is good. It's making sense. Great. My dad's a doctor, and he basically described it to me when I was young. He's just like, well, it's sort of like chest pain. Patient comes to me and says they're having chest pain. They could be having indigestion. They could have a broken rib. They could be having a heart issue. There's many reasons why there could be pain in the chest. So before you, administer medicine for the chest pain, you first have to diagnose it. You first need to know what is the actual problem, what's causing the chest pain, before you do something about it. And I always like to say that right at the beginning with us, because sleep is the same way. A lot of people have trouble falling. A lot of people have trouble staying asleep. And very often it can be fixed with a sleep, what I will call a sleep hygiene tweak. And we'll be talking about sleep hygiene as we get into our weeks ahead. So for instance, a huge majority of people who wake up at night are either waking up to use a restroom. So I encourage everybody, I don't drink any liquids after 7:30 at night. When I started being really vigilant at that, I stopped waking up to use the restroom in the middle of the night. Now I sleep through the night for that. I hydrate during the day, obviously not that. A lot of people who wake up at night are waking up very hot, because even if they've read all of this stuff on Google and knows that the room is supposed to be cold, they're probably under big blankets or bundled up in cozy pajamas or flannel sheets, And those things actually work. They wake up hot, like so hot, they peel everything off, and then they fall back to sleep. And then an hour later, they're freezing cold, and they go hot and cold and hot and cold, hot and cold. Okay. So we fix that, we regulate that. Sometimes for those people, their sleep problems are complete. I've done my job and it's easy. But that's not everybody's problem sleeping. That's not Kathy's problem, who actually does sleep through the night but doesn't feel rested. That's not Maddie's problem when she's having anxiety nightmares. That's not Frank's problem. He doesn't actually know why he wakes, but when he wakes, he can't get back down. So things like that. So so as you can see, as a leader of this course, it's in many ways a pretty daunting task, because I won't be able to find out every person's problem and then try to find a solution. So what I'm going to invite you to do is to really partner with me, to really, as I share things with you, to really think about, well, is this my issue? Is this not my issue? Will this help me? Won't this help me? And we'll go through a little bit of a process in the weeks to come. And hopefully by the time we're done with 5 weeks, my goal is that you'll have what I call a sleep strategy. Even though you may not be perfectly fixed and cured, you'll at least know, you know what, I was having sleep problems before computers were even invented. So no, turning my blue lights off at night is not going to make a difference for me, or something like that. But somebody who's addicted to their phone, that might be their thing. So we will hopefully be in partnership, where you start to make some notes or just make mental notes about what works for you, what's not going to work for you, and then we'll try some stuff out. And then, even though, like I said, I don't think that you'll be magically cured by the time we're done, you'll at least have kind of ruled some things out and have a plan of some steps you can take for yourself. Okay? That said, I'm going to move into the little bit of the high school science part, as I said. So I've got a little bit of a PowerPoint, and just bear with me on it. I will try not to take too long on this. But again, just want to sort of orient you with what we're walking into here. Okay. Okay, sleep, here we are. So this is sort of how the 5 weeks are going to go. Tonight, we're just going to spend a few minutes on how sleep works and doesn't work. A little bit of brain chemistry tonight. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about the different types of sleep disorders. So we'll talk about, not feeling rested, that type of thing, and some sleep hygiene. Not too much time on that, because a lot of that you can read in other people's books. I always try to make sure I'm covering stuff that you can't get elsewhere. We'll go over REM and the sleep cycle. I think you'll be surprised at what you learn there. Week 3 is a doozy. Week 4 is a great one. It's about the lymphatic system. And for those of you who have nighttime anxiety that you kind of can't get rid of, a couple of you nodded your head in that one. That will be for you. And then week 5 is hopefully the wrap up and personal sleep strategy. So each class that we go through, as I mentioned, will have an education component, because I do believe that sometimes we learn something and it just, things just add up. Like all of a sudden dots connect. You're like, wait a minute, this works this way. I didn't even know that. That makes me understand why I do this. So it's always worth, you wouldn't need to learn anything about sleep if you were just sleeping with no problem. So obviously you're here, you've got a challenge, and let's dig in and learn a little bit about it, right? So we'll be doing some sharing in the weeks to come, and we'll kind of see how much we feel like doing that. And then we'll move into the practice component. So I'm going to lead you through some stretching that you can do all in a chair. Everyone can do the stretching, a little bit of breath work, a little guided relaxation. Okay. Give me just a second here. Rabia, can you put everyone on mute for a second. And if you guys don't mind, just give me one moment. I'll be right. Okay, great. So maybe you took a moment to look at took a look at this. You know, as Frank said, even people who weren't having trouble sleeping, you know, before, boy, are people having trouble sleeping now. So during this last year that we've all been in this crazy disrupted state, we've had decreased exposure to natural sunlight, decreased basic mobility, just like the running around and doing errands, or like if we were all on campus, we'd be parking our car and at least walking from our car to the classroom and back. I mean, just little mobility. Community support, even though we try to do stuff online, you know, there's body language and things that we don't pick up when we're not live with each other. Obviously decreased exercise. So many people, you know, try to keep your exercise regimen up, but it's very difficult to do with all of this. And you know, majority of people, it's really gone down. A lot of people have just been really like with the comfort food, right? They call it the quarantine 15, and I'm completely guilty of that. Just eating a lot of sugar. I'm not going to drink extra water. I'll, a lot of more alcohol or whatever. Just I'll get healthy once this is over. And meanwhile, it's a year of our lives. So all this stuff really disrupts our sleep. And just our usual stress relieving outlets, hobbies, sports, community things, even, I used to talk to people at the grocery store a ton just to try to have some human interaction, always learn their names, whatever. And it's like, oh no, you have to stand over there until we've packed it. Okay, now go over there to pick. Just like so much, it's such dramatic change on our systems. Increased exposure to the blue screens because we're doing so many of these, increased isolation. Some people live alone, now they're just not seeing anyone. Increased intake of sugar, of caffeine, as I said, increased anxiety in association with family work, and per Frank's, mentioned societal stress. It's just been one big, ball of anxiety for all of us. Oh, one thing I just wanted to also mention, I don't have in the slide here, but I don't know if any of you read this article in the New York Times that dentists used to get somebody coming in twice a week with broken teeth from grinding their teeth at night. Used to be twice a week. Now dentists are getting them twice a day. Twice a day. People are coming into dentists so stressed out that they're breaking their teeth from grinding them. That's how many people are grinding their teeth right now. So just a little bit on how sleep works, because I feel like I need to include this. I'm just going to read this out to you. Sleep-wake, homeostasis, and circadian rhythm. So these are the two basic systems that kind of operate sleep in the brain. Sleep-wake homeostasis is a little bit less known, but it's an internal biochemical system. It helps to regulate sleep. So basically, the longer you're awake, the more the body senses the need to sleep. However, if this was the only thing that was regulating your cycle, you'd be most awake in the morning and most sleepy at night. But that's not the case, right? Circadian rhythm also regulates the body's sleep-wake cycle. And therefore the body experiences sleepiness at different times of the day. So very often we have like after lunch, we get a little tired, we want a little siesta, type of thing. We need our caffeine at 4 o'clock to kind of finish the rest of the day type of thing. So these are two different things. Sleep-wake homeostasis, however, is the main chemical that's operating for this is called adenosine. And so adenosine is released in the brain throughout the day, and it increases throughout the day, and it increases the sleepiness throughout the day. So just in case you ever wondered how caffeine worked, it works by blocking the receptors of adenosine. So it doesn't allow you to feel sleepy, adenosine that it's working with. So while you sleep, adenosine accumulates, and the accumulated adenosine slowly dissipates, leaving the feeling of sleepiness. Of course, then you wake up, and then it starts all over again. A little on the circadian rhythm, and I know that most of you, know a little bit about this, and we won't spend too much time on it, but circa diem, around a day, circadian rhythm, most of us are familiar with it. It just refers to the sort of physical, mental, behavioral process optimized at various times during the 24-hour cycle. So different systems in the body follow the circadian rhythm and are synchronized with the suprachiasmatic nucleus, known as the body's master clock. But this is in the hypothalamus, and it basically tells the body when to sleep, when to wake, when to eat. And it does all this by, it doesn't work the way that the sleep-wake homeostasis does. This operates by information that it gets through light. So that's why, most of you have heard about melatonin. Basically, light triggers the suprachiasmatic nucleus to make melatonin, and that's what kind of sets your circadian rhythm. So it's the circadian rhythm that, that gets adjusted if we change time zones. And it's a circadian rhythm we can even, very often I feel like I'm just permanently jet lagged, like I fall asleep at 2 and get up at 10 type of thing. Like that's my natural circadian rhythm. Like we all have kind of different sort of clocks there. So some people are naturally wired to be sort of early birds, and for those of us who have trouble falling asleep, we can't stand hearing these success stories of these early birds. They're up at 5:30, they've exercised, they've meditated, they've taken their shower, they've put on a fashionable outfit and shown up at the office before everybody at, 8 a.m. or something like this, boss before all of their employees or something like that. And for those of us who, fall asleep late at night, we can't, if I'm falling asleep at 2 in the morning, I can't get up at 5:30. So we'd be called the night owls. We fall asleep later, and more and more, what's wonderful is, as I was growing up, it was really like the time was a time was a time, and much more now, with the creation of the internet, and especially now work from home. It's really, we're starting to really be in a world where you can, well, somebody needs to mute themselves, thank you. Or you can sort of work at your own hours and get your job done. And so for us night owls, this has been a wonderful change. A little bit on brain chemistry of sleep. The brain chemistry of sleep is incredibly complex. I used to think that there was just melatonin made you fall asleep and, cortisol or epinephrine woke you up. There's really actually so much more to it than that. Again, when I said that sleep was a complex issue, even sleep brain chemistry is an issue. It's not like, oh, just figure out that one chemical or that one chemical. Turns out there's so much going on. So, I mean, I've listed just a few of them here, but it's an incredibly complex system of stuff going on in the brain, and they're only still just finding out more and more as time goes on. So classic is for sleep drive is GABA, responsible for sort of shutting off the wakefulness area. Adenosine, as I talked about, builds up throughout the day, inhibits wakefulness. Nitric oxide is part of the whole process of promoting the release of adenosine. Like you might have enough adenosine, but if you don't have nitric oxide, then it won't work. Melatonin, again, many of us are really familiar with melatonin. So we've got norepinephrine, and epinephrine, these are the sort of wake up drugs, or, we call it adrenaline, fight or flight, constantly being released throughout our stressed out day when they're not supposed to be. It gets left over in our body. I'll be talking a lot more about this when it comes to people who wake up with anxiety at night, etc. Cortisol, another stress hormone. All of these slides I'm going to send to you guys so you can read them over more fully if you're interested. Orexin is another wakefulness hormone. So again, there's a lot going on with brain chemistry. It's much more complex than we had all originally thought. Let's see. Okay, great. This is the last slide. And this is, as you can see, a sleep log. So I was told to keep a sleep log when I was young. And the idea of keeping a sleep log gave me so much anxiety that I couldn't sleep from it. And just the idea of having to write down how horrible my sleep was, and get up and write the thing. And I resisted keeping a sleep log for so long. But here's a couple of things I'll share about finally learning to keep a sleep log. A sleep-deprived brain does not have good memory accuracy, right? We can't remember things as well because we're fuzzy, we didn't sleep well. And we certainly can't have a good sense of our own big picture. Like, you can't sort of diagnose yourself just by thinking about it and trying to ruminate on it. So when I kept a sleep log, over time, I noticed things like this. I noticed that if I had gone, I'm going to encourage you to keep track of your exercise. You can see here caffeine intake, how many times you wake, what time you go to bed. So I noticed that if I went 3 days in a row, I would have crazy, 3 days in a row without doing yoga, I would have crazy restless leg syndrome. Like, my legs would just be kicking at night. So, for years, I was like, sometimes I have restless leg syndrome and sometimes I don't have restless leg syndrome. And I didn't know why. I'm just like, I don't know, sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. Well, once I kept a sleep log, it took me like weeks and months to look back on it. I'm like, oh, I have it when I haven't stretched out and gotten the tension out of my legs. Oh, okay. It's not, it sort of doesn't take a genius to put that together, but for me, it took a sleep log to put that together. Other things I noticed from keeping a sleep log. Over time, I noticed, sometimes I wouldn't understand why I would have trouble falling asleep, and other times I wouldn't. Sometimes I'd be awake all night and then I would sleep 10 hours. And I found that, for me, a lot of that ended up having to do with my hormonal cycle. Now, so like, the night before I got my cycle, I couldn't sleep. And once I did, I could sleep. Now, again, it didn't fix it. It didn't fix my problem. But boy, oh boy, was I relieved to at least know why and when. I would be like, okay, it's that day before, so I'm probably not going to sleep tonight. So let's grab a good book and get ready. Because then I wouldn't have anxiety on top of it. I at least knew what was going on. So from the sleep log, I've been giving this to people for a long time, and people have said that it's really the most helpful tool. People just shared with me they noticed that, when they were traveling or something, all of a sudden they was able to sleep better, or, that the change, there was one night where they had a lot of fluids really late. Sure enough, they got up a couple of times to go to the restroom and then couldn't get back. So things like that you can uncover. I had a really stressful event that one day. Sure enough, that was a day I didn't sleep well. I didn't exercise enough. That was a day I didn't sleep well. Things like this. Hard to know at the time, but super helpful to look back on. because I'm going to be inviting you to create your own sleep strategy. You got to come away from this class knowing what you got, why you have trouble sleeping, and then with a couple of ideas and plans of what you're going to do about it for yourself. The sleep log is going to be the key for you to cracking the code of you. There's no other way. So it doesn't have to be my antiquated PDF that I'll send to you. You can go onto one of those fancy apps or do something on your watch or whatever, you know, however it is you want to keep track, or write in your journal or draw pictures, or again, it's for you. You're not turning it into me. But some sort of way of tracking your sleep. I can't tell you, I really wished that I had listened to this advice much earlier on. Okay, so I'm going to stop my screen share now, and in the next 20 minutes, we're going to do a little practice together. Okay, great. So please find a place where you can sit in your chair comfortably with your feet on the ground and sit up sort of tall. And we're going to start very simply. These are, I always say that these are exercises I did with my grandmother up until the end of her life, and she lived to 101 and a half. So if she could do it, these are things that you guys could do, okay? So we'll start simply, just with easy shoulder rolls, up, back, and around. The tension's not going to move out of your shoulders unless you move them. Otherwise, it's just going to sit there stuck. But I promise you, just a few of these makes a big difference. Just roll them the other way. And when I do this, I usually just start kind of taking some deep breaths, trying to get the day out. Great. And then we're going to do a few head and neck rolls. If you, at this point, if you feel like, wow, this is crazy yoga, I don't want to be seen, if you want to turn your camera off, you may. It's nice for me to kind of make sure you guys are with me. Just roll your head the other direction. Okay, and then bring it back to center. And then from wherever you are, can you just pick your right foot? You're still seated, but just pick your right foot up off the floor and do some ankle circles. Just take your right foot and sort of spin it over to the right. And then take your right foot and spin it to the left. I encourage you to do just little stuff like this throughout the day, so you're not just turning into your desk chair. If you get the tension out of your body, it's gonna help with your sleep. Let's take the left foot, spin it over to the left. And then spin it over to the right. A couple deep breaths like you mean it. Okay, great. And then try this, interlace your fingers, turn them inside out, reach your arms up over your head. And yes, my grandma did this one. Couple deep breaths. When you release, release slowly, and notice that you've got one thumb that's on top, and then just put the other, change your hand, so you put the other thumb on top. Yeah, great. And then take the arms back up over your head. Almost do a little back bend, so you're kind of helping your posture here. Yeah. Just hunched forward all day long, right? Okay, and then release. And then let's try a little, just bend to the side. Now we all have different chairs here, so I don't have any armrests. I'm just kind of leaning on the edge of my chair. You can kind of make it up. And then come all the way up, and let's get the other side. All day long, you get hit with tension and stress, and usually we just absorb it in. And then it just sits there. So we need to actively get it out and away from us so that we're not just sitting with that stress as we try to, try to sleep. Okay, and let's just do a little twist. So just kind of take a hold of whatever you can, but just gently. Don't crank on this. Just a gentle twist. And then let it go. Side 2. Okay, and then release. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling better already. Okay, I'm taking my glasses off here because we're going to do a little face and jaw massage. So it's a little bit tricky on Zoom. It's a little tricky with these buds, but there's like right where my ear and jaw meet. I try to start there and make little circles, and then I kind of get right in that place where your jaw, where it's like, there's like a big round mound of ball of tension. And then when you do that, this is not attractive, but we're amongst friends here. You want to let your mouth just kind of like, want to let it hang. So I'm going to keep doing the massage, and I'm going to talk a little bit, just kind of follow along with me, going down my chin. And then I start to do like piano fingers sometimes. I'll just go to different parts of my body. Go to the cheekbones, feels really nice on the cheekbones. So I do a jaw massage, and I do not grind my teeth, but I do a jaw massage every night anyway. I'll get to the temples, maybe little circles of the temples. And when I do the jaw massages, I'm going to invite you to bring this into your ritual. After I brush my teeth, spit out the toothpaste. Now I'm going up to my forehead here. Wipe my face, and then I take 1 minute to just do this. And now just wherever you want on your face, just kind of improvise. Just close your eyes. I take 1 minute before I know I'm going to bed, and I try to massage the day out of my face with lots of long breaths. So for those of you that grind your teeth, if you went to a physical therapist, yes, you need a night guard for your teeth. If you went to a physical therapist, one of the main things it would teach you to do is to give yourself a jaw massage. So I just saved you a physical therapy appointment. Okay, get way back in there. Get that tension out every single night. Again, you don't need to grind your teeth to get the benefits of doing that. It's just incredibly, everything you said, just get it away from the day, right? Okay. And then I'm going to invite you to just sit up kind of tall. We're just going to do a little bit of a breathing practice. This is called a box breathing. So we're going to inhale to the count of 4, hold the breath to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 4, and hold the breath to the count of 4. So a little bit of interruption of your breath and keeping it a smooth, easy, even rhythm like this does a lot to kind of stop the nervous system's momentum of stress, and it just kind of helps to balance you out. So this is a classic sort of yoga breathing technique, and this is one that can really be done anytime during the day. So you'll have access to these recordings if you want to do this practice again. It's something I encourage you to work on. So go ahead and sit tall. When you do breath work, you don't want your lungs all squashed. So try to sit up a little bit and then allow your eyes to close. And I'm just going to walk you through it. Okay, close your eyes. So you're breathing in and out through your nose only. All nose breathing. Take a couple breaths. And then everybody all together, let's exhale through the nose fully. And then let's begin. You'll inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3. Close your eyes and inhale. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. In breath. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, and out breath. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, and in and hold and out and hold. In, hold, out, hold. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. One more round. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Everyone, deep breath in through your nose. Through the nose, gentle exhale. And then just come back to natural breathing. And with your eyes closed, continue to breathe naturally. We were just guiding and channeling the breath, doing breath work. But now you want to allow the breath to find its own rhythm, and that may be uneven, and you want to just let it do that now. Let the breath find its own new spot. And as you're breathing, become aware of the breath moving in and out through your nose. And as your eyes are closed, with your mind's eye, please get an image of the shape that your body is making now. Get a mental image of the shape that your body is making. And with your eyes closed, notice that the shape of your body gently rises up and expands on the inhale. And it softens and relaxes on the exhale. Your mind starts to drift off, bring it back to noticing that the shape of you is always rising slightly and relaxing slightly. And as you notice your body rising and relaxing, mentally say the word rise as you inhale, and mentally say the word relax as you exhale. Just repeat, rise, relax. Your mind drifts off, no big deal, just bring it back. No need to think about why it drifted off, just come back, repeating to yourself, rise, relax. The breath leads the movement of the body. Rise, relax. And then allow the words to fall away. And continue to watch the movement of the body and breath. And when you're ready, you can deepen your breath and start to make your way back. So your unofficial homework for the week, as I said, is to keep your sleep log. That's going to be your greatest tool to unlocking the code of your sleep issues. I do encourage you to try to just repeat whatever of the routine you remember that we did tonight. So we did some ankle circles, some shoulder circles. One of the main reasons why people have trouble falling asleep is they're just a ball of physical tension. And we just need it physically, like an animal always stretches before they go to sleep. We are animals too. So try to get, do the little jaw massage, do the stretch Julia's doing, and try to repeat a little bit, as much of this as you can remember. And then you'll report back next week and let me know how it all went. Just a reminder, a lot of the questions are super individual, and if you want to get into it, talk about it, please feel free to email me, and we can have an exchange about whatever's going on for you. So I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks so much. Good night.
Thank you.